So when I did the SEDI exhibition last time, I decided to actually make the SEDU Gada, but I chose, the whole idea was, as it was explained to me, that SEDU was a personal expression of the woman that were making it. So I thought, okay, if it's interpreting it in today's way, there's material available to me, there's colors available to me, how can I express myself through a piece of furniture? So I took it in a very lighthearted way and made like a fun, colorful seating to kind of express a more modern version of a personal expression through Sedu. But it was a lot of fun. So, and having the group discussions were a lot of fun because you get to collaborate with people and ask them questions. And if you need assistance with anything, it's great. I met a lot of people through the residency thing, and we're still, as you can see, really close friends, which is awesome. So take that opportunity, definitely.
Hi, my name is Amani. I don't think this is working. Is that? Okay. Okay. Mafi. Okay. Okay, so my background is in architecture, my bachelor's degree, and then my master's degree is in fine arts. And my experience was a bit different because during the SEDI program, the production phase, I was still doing my master's in London, but I was communicating with the SEDU House team through email and phone calls. But I made a piece in Prague, and then sent it with a friend to Kuwait so that I can exhibit it here. So my piece was also very playful, and it was basically several iPhones, but not real iPhones. They look like iPhones with images from Snapchat, things related to how tradition got evolved and how tradition merges with technology, and created a Sedu pattern out of these iPhones. And yeah, it was a lot of fun, and they sent me lots of pictures from that exhibition, and yeah.
Hi, my name is Jawad Tabtabai. My background is also architecture, bachelor's, master's, PhD. I teach at Kuwait University, Department of Architecture. I don't know how they found me, but I'm glad they did. But I'm glad Sahar found me somehow on Instagram, and I got invited to participate in the SEDI 2019. Should we just do names first and then we have discussions? I don't know. So, just so that people remember.
Hi everyone, my name is Abdullah Saleh and my background's in photography. My bachelor's had nothing to do with photography, it was marketing, but I'll explain further.
Hi, my name is Fadal Omar. I studied media, and that's it.
My name is Mshari Najjar. I'm a practicing architect, and my bachelor's was in architecture and a minor in urban design, and yeah, I'm part of the 2019 batch of artists and designers.
Hello, my name is Adil Ashkanani, and I'm an artist also. Oh, I studied film in college, and then I came to Kuwait, and now I'm doing something completely different. Oh, yeah. Nice to you.
Awesome, thanks.
Excuse me? Now I'm a buyer for stone. Wide, but I'm still doing art on the side. Yeah.
My name is Muna Al-Kanai, and bachelor's in English literature, master's in visual anthropology. What else? I'm part of his team.
Thank you. My name is Sultan Samhan, another one on the list of architects, and I'm a painter as well. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of history, material science, spatial experience, and yeah, we'll see how this pans out.
Hello, everyone. My name is Salim Salim. My background is like music. I'm a musician. I play in a band called Galaxy Juice. And Yeah, I'm a visual artist as well. I do like collage, digital art, and paper collage, and I'm excited to be a part of this, feeling the love.
Hi, my name is Ahmed Jamal. I missed last week, but I'm an architecture engineer. My background, yeah, it's in architecture. I worked several different areas, but my main interest is art, animation, and movie making. Yeah, so it's like a different amalgamation of things.
Hi, my name is Mahal Asakir. I'm an artist, and my medium is photography. And recently, I am excited about textile, weaving, embroidery.
شكرا. معكم حسين البناي، فنان تشكيلي متخصص في النحت والرسم الزيتي اكثر شيء. قاعد يسجل؟ اوكي. اي حسين البناي فنان تشكيلي متخصص في النحت ومتخصص في الاويل بينتنج اللي هو الرسم الزيتي. كوظيفه مسكت رئيس قسم بالانابه في اكاديميه صباح الاحمد الموهبه المشتركه، والحين حاليا معلم في وزاره التربيه.
Cool. Okay, I would love for you guys to kind of, the first question I think everyone, well, the first question I always get when approaching artists to join the program is, how can I relate Sadu, which is such a traditional craft, into my own art form? Yani, you have everything from photography to architecture, a lot of architecture actually. So I would love if you guys can speak on, we don't have to go around each time. I want to, this can be a casual thing. But if everyone can speak on how they kind of approach this challenge of taking on such a traditional art form and applying it to their own art. And this is going to be the only question I ask, guys. So please take it on from there. And yeah, does anyone want to jump in and answer that to begin with?
You want to talk about your art pieces? Have you been to the Sadu retrospect exhibition?
The 2019 one.
Because there are very interesting approaches and different mediums. I know Muna's a video, film and sound. Film and sound. So I mean, and this year's theme is rhythm. So yeah, so they're working with rhythm. So they're going to find rhythm in the patterns, rhythm in the weaving movement, rhythm within all elements, whether the artisan or the art piece itself. And I know Muna's piece had a lot of rhythm in it as well, and you connected it. Yes, so it's here.
All right. So I'm a visual anthropologist, and I'm specialized in ethnographic documentary. And I was asked before I was told to join the first initiative of SADI if I could do this art residency with the British Council. And they wanted me to, I mean, I do paint. I am an artist. And they told me if I could create a piece, but seeing that my degree is in visual anthropology, if I could make a film. So I made a film, and by the time I was done with the film, I showed the film. I was asked to do the SADI initiative, and again, it was us again. So when I wanted to do it, I already did all of the background research on Sadu, because I do have a huge interest in Sadu. And I paid attention a lot when I was filming. Actually, everything that I filmed, I paid attention. Part of the things that I pay attention to is the details. I'm very meticulous, so when I went out and I started shooting, because of my personality and my background degree, I noticed that when I was filming, and for many hours, and then editing for many hours. I'm sure whoever did film knows. When you're filming, and also when you're there on site, you realize that there's something going on while you're filming. And I noticed that there was an element to the sound in craft. And then because I also, part of the scene that I did have within my film, I had the camel. So I was like, so I had to rewind while I was editing, and I noticed that there was a connection there. And it was very interesting for me, and I was like, wow. The weaver, because, you know, when you're weaving and it's really hot, it was in August, and we were in Salmi. Yeah, I'm crazy. It was low budget. I was trying to cut down on price. So I was like, okay, we're gonna do it in Ramadan, during Ramadan, before Ramadan, sorry, and we're gonna do it in August. And everyone's like, are you insane, Yani? So I was like, okay, we're gonna do it in August. So we went to Salmi, and they're like, are you sure, Salmi? So yeah, so the lady was mad, the weaver. By the time we got the tent and everything, we got her sitting, and we're going to shoot, and I kept telling her, you have to do it again, and again, and again. And we had to like retake a lot. And while we were doing all of these takes, she was getting mad. And then all of a sudden I would talk to her and try to play with her psychology to make her comfortable and okay and relaxed, so her weaving would change. So, and while I'm still filming, so when I was editing, I noticed that when she was mad, she had a beat. And when she was okay, it was a different beat. And when I also paid attention, because I had a scene where the camels were supposed to be in the background of the guys that were dancing. And the son of the weaver decided that he's going to take care of the camels. So I was like, are you sure? And he's like, yeah, I'm a Bedouin, I can. I was like, okay, yalla, yeah. So he's holding the stick, and we're all filming, and here's this. And the camels are okay. And in the background, but I have them close, but not so close. All of a sudden, they go off. And then all of a sudden, we see a guy running all the way across. The camel just goes off running, and the guy is running after him with his dishtasha up. So the camel is like running. So now we have the sound of the camel running. And I'm like, oh, wow. So in the edit, I heard the sound of the camel running, and then the camel when it was just walking and, grazing. And then, I had the different stages of the camel going on because of what was going on, because we were there for like a couple of hours. So when I was editing, I noticed the lady and then the weaver, and then I noticed the camels, and I was like, wow. It was like a light turned on, and I was like, this is really interesting. I mean, I could do a whole research on this camel and weaver, because no one ever actually thinks or notices that in craft, in weaving, yes, it's a bunch of knots all together, but you don't realize that an animal would have the same sound as someone is like weaving or trying to create something that you can actually use. So like Sadu, we do use it like as a carpet or as a tent or, back in the old days. And we still use them. But it was interesting that here we are, this weaving that we never took it, like, we never really looked really deep into it to understand how is it possible to actually create a rug or to create a tent to provide for us something. How could it have the same sound as an animal? it never crosses anyone's mind, well, at least not me. It never crossed my mind to actually think, oh, let's pay attention to the animals. Let's pay attention to how an animal actually walks, or the sound, what sound do they give, and what is going on. And I noticed that they had the same beat, and the weaver had the same beat. So when the weaver was mad, it had the same beat as the camel. So I was like, this is really interesting. So I was like, okay, let's create this installation for Sadi. So seeing that the lady that I was filming, it really is sad to know that there aren't that many weavers left. And a lot of them don't even want to be filmed. And I had I still do, I have a difficulty finding a weaver. And anyhow, so I found this weaver, and she's the only weaver that would accept for you to actually film her. And she has pretty much an attitude, a really strong attitude too. But that's not the point. The point is there's only one, right? So it's pretty much, in my opinion, right? I feel that Sadu is really dying in our society, and we need to bring it back up. And we need to pay attention to the little details and understand what is weaving and what is Sadu, and why we should appreciate it. And how did it become something that we can use? So when you realize that there's the same sound, you realize, oh, there's something going on. You know, there's this, it goes back also to my film, when everything goes in a circle. So everything that goes in a circle has the same sound. So if you try to make a circle, you'll hear that it has a sound with a pen. If you do it, you would have the same sound. You know, you'd have zh. And then if you want to hear music, if it's a CD, it goes shh. So everything goes into music. Even the earth, if you were to listen to the stars and how they move, it's also shh. So everything has a sound, and so we're all connected. So if that sound is off, so if the weaver's weaving and she weaves wrong, you're not going to have a piece of rug or a tent that you can use, because it's off beat. So there is an element that I believe that's very important in understanding how well and how important it is to have Sadu, you know, still around. We need it around. So anyhow, long story short, there aren't that many weavers, and I felt that how can I actually create an installation of this with sound and image? So I was like, okay, my opinion, it's dying, you know? And not only is it dying, we're actually parading it. So I was like, okay, let's get fabric of shrouds. So I got the fabric of shrouds, and I cut it up, and I hand dyed each piece according to the colors of the Sadu. Of course, I also used herbs. Oh, that was a mess. So I used a lot of herbs, and by the time I was done, I was like, wow, I have 3 meters. Each piece was 3 meters. So I was like, okay, so I have 3 meters. How am I going to hang it? You know, you can't put nails and everything. So I was like, okay, this is an obstacle. So I was like, okay, well, we have palm trees. That's very, you know, earthy. So I was like, okay, so I used the palm trees. I used the stick, I cleaned it out, and I just hung it using those as elements to support the fabric. And I projected the weaver now, the weaver in the center, which is where we used to actually read her story whenever we look at a piece of Sadu. So she would write her story, and everyone buys these Sadu, or even back then when they would go to someone's house, they would look at the symbols that she's created on rugs or on the tent, and they would make out a story. There is a story to this. So with her dying, with this whole process dying out, we're no longer now paying attention to we don't need to pay attention with the symbols and her story, because there is no more story that is being woven onto a piece of rug. So now we need to pay attention to her. So for me, it was very important to project her using light and using film to project her on the center in the middle and have her weaving, and then on the side having as a support the camels walking. And while all of these films are looping and being projected onto the pieces of fabric, you would hear the sounds. But even when I came to actually put the sounds together, I had a problem, because when I actually muted the camel, his groan, people wouldn't know that actually it's a weaver and a camel walking. So I was like, okay, I need to leave the element of the camel in this whole sound. So I created the wave where I left it as raw as possible, and the weaver breathing and weaving, and you would hear the process of actually creating this Sadu piece. That's pretty much my piece. Sorry, it took a lot of time. Sorry. But no, it was actually very interesting and fun. And I would have to say, if it wasn't for Sheikh Altaf, she actually she pushed me in a way that actually helped me. And I've never created an art installation. But it was because of her. I was interested in creating an art installation. And yes, we had our ups and downs, me and her, but it was very fruitful and very interesting, and I learned a lot from her. And I also learned a lot from creating this installation. And I even named it a very interesting name that it was very personal. So can't remember right now, but it was, I think, something about love. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. Thank you. But I also paint. You described it very well, so I'm just curious to see it.
I'm just going to add to you saying that Sadu is dying, because I took that approach and I created the art piece of the Sadu artist disappearing. And I struggled with knowing what to create, but yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. But yeah, I struggled with knowing what I wanted to create. But I put that aside and I just started writing stories, and like something to do with Sadu or just like a fictional story, until I found one where the Sadu artist is really upset by that she can't pass down her art form, because Sadu is passed down by grandmother, mother to daughter. And I remember one of the weavers saying that her daughter doesn't want to learn because it takes too long, it takes years to create. And she was complaining that I'm the one who knows, my daughter doesn't want to learn, and I'm the last one who's gonna know how to weave from the family. And I'm like, oh wow, okay, that touched me. So my artwork was the weaver is walking around the desert picking up pieces that she could find in the desert and then drawing all the motifs and symbols on it because she knows that she's going to die. And she wanted to have something that has to do with the Sadu still alive, but back to Earth. And when I came up with that story, I'm like, okay, so now I can create. So I feel if, like, mashallah, like you guys are really talented, but like if you're struggling, maybe just write stories, come up with stories, and that can help. That can really help you. So, yeah.
For and what she said about stories, أنا كانت عندي مشكلة, especially in the beginning when I was trying to think about what am I going to do with sustainability. My art is more photography, it's a creative direction, ما أعرف شو أسوي. And in my own photography, I always try to tell a story. فلما دشيت سدي صار في I need to find a story, I need to find something that's being told in the Sadu itself, بالنقشات, the first couple of sessions I had, I couldn't find anything to think about creating or designing or and then we met with Nasijat, and I think it was with all of them, and I keep forgetting the Turkey. But I kept asking. She's an interesting personality صراحة, بس I kept trying to ask her شنو يعني هالنكشة وشنو يعني في قصة بالنكشات وتقولي لا ماكو قصة, بس بعدين أخذت بنتها أو شيء قالت لي لا في قصة بس هي ما تبي تقول. I played off of that, and it was من اللي فهمته ان النكشات كانت على كل شيء حواليهم, يعني المشط الترجية كل شيء كانوا يشوفونه كانوا يحكونه. What I did is because it was about sustainability, I made this dress, and each part of the dress told a specific story about sustainability. So one was a dress, yes. What do you mean? Sustainability. And every part of the dress told a specific story about sustainability. So it was environmental sustainability, environmental sustainability, social sustainability. So my struggle at the beginning ended up being my success at the end, because I found the story into speaking to them and trying to figure out what was happening, how the nasij was being created. So if you guys can look into, like, speak to them, try talking to them, finding out how they made what they made, it would help you guys out.
هو التحول انا حسب ما فهمت انه هو يعني بين الدوكيومنتري بين الارت. اي فيجوال اوكي. اي
هم الناس اللي يسوون ريسيرش اون كرافت ويسوون ريسيرش اي متخصصين اكثر، بس يعطونك اياها بطريقه فنيه. فيعني انت لما في بعد متاحف عالميا اسمها anthropology. زين الانثروبولوجي مو it's not just an anthropologist اللي هو يصور صوره وصوت. عندك اثنين، عندك اللي يصور صوره وصوت، وعندك اللي يسوي دوكيومنتري. زين الصوت والصورة يتصنف ما يتصنف documentary again، يتصنف sensory media. بس أنا لأن it's a film and sound راح يتصنف visual anthropology with the emphasis in ethnographic. Yeah.
ونفس الشيء فضاء. اي انا ما عرفت شنو البيس اوف ارت اللي سويتيها. wooden pieces. Okay. Mhm. 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 اوكي نايس نايس اوكي شكرا شكرا. وهني هم عبد الله اي شكرا اللي هو الدرس اللي سويته الدرس. اي شكرا مشكورين ما قصرتوا. شكرا سهلتوا لنا العمليه عن الرذم صعبتوها عليهم وايد. احنا اعتقد موضوعنا عن الرذم وايد. اتوقع الرذم موجود يمكن سهل. اتوقع انا ما ادري بالنسبه لي راح يكون موجود وايد يعني الرذم فسهل نقدر نطلع يمكن بافكار وايده. فشكرا. بغيت اتكلم عن نقطه تو تكلمت عنها شويه خارج عن الموضوع اللي هو السدو بس بشكل عام عن اللي هو الحرف اليدويه. ان الحرف اليدويه خصوصا السدو هذه الاشياء قاعده تموت. فباعتقادي انا كفنان يعني اشتغل بالاشياء هذه اللي هي اليدويه اعتقد ان هالشيء ما يموت يعني ممكن يضعف بس ما يموت بالنهايه راح يرد مره ثانيه. لان اكو مثال حي على هالموضوع هذا اللي هو ممكن يتغير طريقه. اي ممكن ما راح يظل نفس ما هو 100%. بالضبط صح. ايوه اي اي مو ما يندر. اي اي صح صح صح. فعشان كذي المثال الحي اللي هو البوتري. عندنا البوتري يعني الخزف فترة من فترات يعني انطفت بشكل حيل 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 حيل. صار الخزافين حيل عددهم قليل صار حيل. لأن شنو؟ لأن قبل يوم بدأ فن الخزف وقاموا يشتغلون الناس صار في طفرة في بريطانيا مصانع البريطانية قاموا يصير يعني الآلة تتبدل بدال شو اسمه بدال شو اسمه ولو كانت آلاتهم بسيطة الجهاز هذا اللي يعجز هذا. اي بس اكمل القصة هذه. فلما صارت المسألة مادية وصارت فيها مصانع بدأوا يقلون عدد الخزافين لأن ما قام يطلع لهم شيء والمصانع قامت تسوي هالشيء بأكثر دقة أسهل وأقل مادية فتقريبا انطفت. الحين حاليا اللي أشوفه حق مستقبل حتى السد وكل الحرف اليدوية إن مع تطور التكنولوجيا اللي قاعد يصير عندنا الآلات وال 3 دي برينتر والأشياء هذه والذكاء الاصطناعي راح يوصل في المجتمع مرحلة أن هذه الأشياء اليدوية راح تقل بس راح توصل مرحلة التكنولوجيا راح تصير وايد عالية اللي احنا كبشر راح نشمئز من هالشيء فنرجع حق الشيء الطبيعي مرة ثانية. اي فاحنا قاعد نرجع حق الأشياء الثانية مرة ثانية بالضبط. فعشان كذا هنا بالدنمارك عندنا يعني الخزف مرة ثانية عندهم. يوم رحت زرت متاحفهم هناك بالدنمارك كان في واحد يشتغل في الستور مالهم وقال لي أنا خزاف. قال لي احنا هذا الحكي قبل 4-5 سنوات اكيد الحركه صايره يمكن قبل 15 او 10 سنوات تعتبر جديده يعني هالحركه هذه. يقول عندنا بالدنمارك راد فن البوتري بشكل مو طبيعي اقوى من قبل. صاير عندنا اقوى من قبل بس كهوبي يعني شيء يعني مو انه نفس قبل كان اساسي. ايوه اي اي
انت الحين قاعد تقول نعم صح احنا عندنا السدو هم عندنا بشاينا يسوون لك الفرن.
اي
اذا مو فرن يسوي لك اياه كانه
صح صح صح
بس هل احنا عندنا القصه؟ هذا قاعد اتكلم عن القصه
اي
الكويتيه القصه العربيه
صح.
احنا الرموز هذه هل احنا نقدر ان نعطيها حق اجيالنا؟
نحافظ عليها وهذا اي بالضبط. اي عن طريق الجلسات اللي قاعد تصير عن طريق البرنامج. اي عن طريق البرامج اللي قاعد تصير نفس هذه البرامج هذه وايد مهم. 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 مم. 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 فتعتقدين انه بعد فتره راح يتلاشى الشيء؟ اي. مم. مم. اي. اي. صح. مم. 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 مم.
يعني I believe إن حتى when we automate everything can be automated بس الماشينز ما تقدر بدون creative person إن يشرف عليها يتحكم فيها يعني مهما راحت الجوبز أو صارت automated creative creative fields ما راح تختفي فراح تكون موجودة you know what I mean ف يعني I believe إن إحنا as artists and designers إحنا our role is not to necessarily learn how to weave, but I mean tell our stories about our culture, about I mean عادي إذا صار الشيء automated بس it still needs us.
Can I talk about my own practice? So this isn't about the Sedu project, but I approach my work that I do the same way. Jewelry making, goldsmithing, when I was in high school and school, I didn't know any Kuwaiti that was doing that. Nobody. I don't know anybody who knew anybody who would do that. And then the traditional gold jewelry that we would see in the markets were not made by Kuwaitis. They're not designed by Kuwaitis. They are Indian interpretations of Khaliji jewelry. I didn't have a reference for that. I didn't have any information or research or documentation. I had Bahraini books, Saudi Bedouin books, but not the gold jewelry, which is different than the silver, you know? So it was hard to, so yes, documenting it is extremely important, but even when I found the documentation of it or samples of it, I didn't try to replicate it. I tried to figure out an evolution of it to where it would be now with me. And my work now, I'm constantly trying to create work that is from Kuwait, from me as a Kuwaitiya, but something unique to us. So I use 3D printing with my pieces, but my object that I've taken inspiration from is a native desert plant that we don't really know about. It's there, there's research on it, but I'm trying to bring light onto the native flora that is in Kuwait. So by using hand-making techniques, 3D forming, 3D printing, ceramic plating, which is also a new application, I try to mix it so that you don't get lost in the past and get stuck there, and you don't get jumped into the future and have nothing linked to where you're from and the culture and the society, and also not to try to, because we went through a phase where people were replicating the past and just using it as a motif or like, يعني, you know, just like a little, oh, this is arabesque something, but what does this have to do actually with your life or the way you've lived your life or anything around you? So now we went through that past in architecture, jewelry, fashion, where they were taking inspiration from the past and using it in their work, but not connecting to it. That's them and this is us, or like this is our past. And then what happened in between, evolve it, make it your own, interpret it in your own way, have that freedom. It's yours to do whatever you want with it. So like, do not be afraid of changing it however you feel like you need to, because that's when it actually will become authentic of the work that could exist for this like time period in Kuwait.
I feel also that weavers are like, through my research, like very different than just artists. But from my research and the talk with them Turkey, there that the symbol that they're using changed with time.
Yeah.
So when it was like the basic like Bedouin Sahara, it was like more of like basic things that they see in their own eyes. And during the 60s, and when they start to see planes and go to like see more modern, they start to incorporate the planes. And then after the Kuwaiti Ghazo, when they start to say in haram to draw human figure, because they used to do human figure, then the weavers stopped doing it. So even with the figures that they're doing, and then when they start to learn like writing and reading, they start to incorporate it there. So in a way, I feel like the code with the Sadu is if you understand that there is a code and then you try to break it and have a meaning to it, then everything evolves with time. You have the basic like patterns, and you can see it in a different tribes, not only in Kuwait. So if you go like South America, in Africa, whatever there's tribe that they're moving, they kind of have the same thing. The colors are different because the plants and the nature is different, but everything evolves. And for me, having a place that record things like that, like I was amazed. Like I tried like to search. I found a couple of like one or two researchers. Like there is something, not much, but I could find something only online.
Shadi's piece is a fantastic example of making your own story.
Yeah.
Right? So I don't know. To sort of talk about the story.
Yeah.
I think,
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, no, when I first joined, I wanted to weave. That was my intention. Like, خلاص, I'm going to do something weaved and it's going to be a huge tapestry. And then I realized, like, no, you need like so much. Yeah, and it's like there's such a huge technique. And I felt like I'm an imposter almost if I wanted to do my own weave. But then that's where the idea of like trying to think of something that I'm kind of comfortable with. So something that I do a lot with my work is creating narratives. I'm an architect, but at the same time, I like to inject stories into everything that I do. So going back to how the weavers, the shajara is the patterns, they're inspired by their context, by things that they see every day. For me, I'm an architect أشتغل بكويت City. On my way, إمارات الكويتية, خطوط الجوية الكويتية is something I see every day. So for me, that was my context. I took that building. Okay, I was kind of obsessed with it, but يعني I just like I was like, يلا might as well, you know. What I did, my piece is exactly. فmy piece was عن الكويتية وعن المبنى انهدم. It's also the same thing that we're going back to. Sedu weaving is a heritage that we're kind of, the technique is maybe being hidden or disappeared or it's kept within people, but at the same time the image gets to live on. So that's the same thing with architecture. And going back to sustainability, the theme, for me, the most unsustainable thing that you can do is demolish a building instead of readapting it. That's where I did the story of the Kuwaitiya, and I literally wrote a narrative of the building talking to the people and sharing its story. And then the interpretation of that is just the block printing of the pattern اللي هو واجهة الكويتية, and then I stitched over it cross-stitching that kind of reinterpret that idea of something that's being hidden or being kind of taken apart. And at the bottom, I did these weaves in my way, where I just weaved strands of fabric within a laser-cut leather piece. And on that, I wrote, since, again, I'm not someone that will create these icons that the weavers do, and I literally stitched the story on these pieces. And then next to it is, لأن أول شيء كانت فكرة أن بس هذولي والناس يأخذون اللي تحت, بس بعدين as I was stitching, it took me like 2 weeks just to do them. I was like, no, I'm not giving it to anyone. But I did the second part where it's just written by ink. For the whole idea is, even though the building is long demolished, the story of it gets to live on, and then people can take these strands away with them. It's a small thing, يعني يمكن أول ما يطلعوا من الباب يقطونه بالزبالة, but at the end of the day, for a moment, you let people think and kind of think of these stories that these buildings have and these icons have, which is exactly what Sedu is. لأن Sedu at the end of the day is not necessarily an art piece. يعني لما الweaver تسوي, she's showing off her skill, she's showing off her skill على الشيء راح يستخدم يوميا والشيء that's going to be part of life. And architecture is kind of that. يعني it's شيء that you're kind of imposing your idea or your image onto something that's going to be part of people's lives. I wanted something that can be like a takeaway where يعني شيء يكون معهم. Yeah, it's kind of sappy, but like that's how I did my piece. Yeah.
Programs for SEDU workshops and for the documentation. We do have that to keep it as is. But with this program is for it to transcend how it is, the way you see it, and to make it something new, whether something visual, something audio-based, something sensory. It's not as it is. You are not asked to recreate SEDU with this. That's why today we wanted you to take the creative process. How did they approach it as designers, as creatives? How did they link it to themselves or link it to Kuwait, to the identity, and some went macro with it, some went micro. And with Jawad's piece, he really zoomed in. It was like somebody took a magnifying glass and went really deep into the piece. Someone would take it with Mishari, something a bit further back. So with Jawad's piece, I really think you should listen to his story as well. لأن it's a very interesting approach to SEDU.
So with the SEDU Pixel Matrix, well, first of all, I said I'm an architect. I don't practice architecture, I teach it. But I wanted something that sort of resembles what I do for a living. So it had to be something interactive, it had to be something spatial. It could not be something two-dimensional. So it had to be three-dimensional. And people had to interact with it, meaning you cannot just understand it from one vantage point. So with that in mind, and after sort of meeting with the weavers and having people come and give us workshops and whatnot, I've been basically sketching in my sketchbook or writing words, simple words that to me describe what SEDU is. Because I agree with what's been said so far about icons and images and symbols being sort of a matter of time, right? And as we move forward, they need to change, right? So I was not necessarily interested in specific patterns per se, but I was interested in ideas about SEDU. And everyone kept saying triangles, 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 triangles. And I'm like, you know what? No, I don't think so. SEDU is not made of triangles, it's actually made of pixels. Because the threads are so broad, so thick, that if you put 4 together like this, you get a square. You get literally a pixel. So that's what started the whole thing. I wanted to create something that's three-dimensional. And of course, I've been told that the theme was sustainability, and I was like, I'm not big on sustainability, sorry. Yeah, it's not that I don't agree with it, but I'm sort of tired of the cliche idea of sustainability. That what I was trying to do is sort of sustain SEDU as an idea in a different medium, in a different dimension, let's say. So that's it. I took the words and I tried literally and figuratively to weave those words into a three-dimensional object. So for example, one of the words, or one of the sort of, it's a duality, hard edge versus soft edge. So if you look at any SEDU piece, there's a front and there's a back. And the front is usually very rigid, very geometric. The back becomes super soft, and you start to see the threads sort of loose in a way. So I try to sort of infuse things like that, infuse these words into the three-dimensional objects so that you may look at a sort of a motif from one angle and it would look rigid. And if you would look at it from another angle, it would become super smooth. I wasn't interested in the symbolism of these patterns, not at all. In fact, some people were coming to me and they're like, "Oh, I like how you included the madri shunu." I'm like, yeah. But I was not interested in the meaning per se. I was interested in translating the feel that you get with Sedu. So one idea was that Sedu always had what I call noise, which is like the off color that happens every now and then because everything is hand dyed or handmade, right? So every now and then the black is not so black, the white is not so white, the red is not so red. So I try to infuse some of these keywords and key ideas into the Sedu pixel matrix, and I don't know, it's really hard to talk about it and explain what it is, but it's basically, if you can imagine a series of pixels suspended in midair, and these pixels have different readings from different vantage points, but all the readings are Sedu, and it gives you the feel. So there's a feel to it that is Sedu. So it's not just the geometric pattern, it's other things like the noise, for example, the soft versus hard edge, the framing of Sedu pieces, so on and so forth. The medium itself, it was something that I had experimented with, and I thought it was very appropriate in this case, and it was quite a challenge. Close to 8,000 beads. 1 plus 100, I can't remember, I wrote it down. 1.7 kilometer of thread or something. And I was hoping that the weaving, maybe in the future, we would install it and the installation process becomes part of the performance, but not at the moment. So I don't know, I hope that explains it.
When you see it from different angles, you see the pattern.
Yeah.
You do see it. كأن أحد جاب telescope وحط Sedu piece, and you see it. حتى with the noise, he has the pattern, and then he has off piece to create the noise with it. And he made it 3D, so if you go from this side, you see مثلا a square. Flip, لا شوف أول جانب. And flip, that was the beauty of it. At different angles, you saw different patterns. So it was like you stepped into the piece.
It's the universe of Sedu in a way, and if it was up to me, I would make a much larger piece, but it costs a lot of money, and it requires a lot of effort. But that was the idea. I said, as an architect, I wanted people to interact with it, and I wanted it to be a spatial experience. So you cannot just sit in one position and understand the whole piece. You actually have to walk around it, have to engage with it. And good architecture is architecture that engages people. So my idea or my thought was, okay, a good installation is one that engages people as well, makes them think, makes them want to sort of explore and walk around.
And what I love about this is, I love about what everyone was saying actually, is it kind of displays how multidimensional Sedu is, and that's something that I want you guys to take, because there's so many
elements of Sedu that can be inspirational, that can be a source of inspiration. So for example, the geometry itself, be it the pixel, the triangle, the shapes, the colors, it has very distinct colors, so that can be a source of inspiration as well. The stories, the symbolism behind it. So as you see, everyone kind of took an element or two of Sedu and adapted that. So yes, the theme is rhythm, but rhythm can be coupled with other elements of Sedu that can also be used to create your piece. So I think the important kind of next step for everyone is to really delve into what is Sedu, specifically more maybe the theoretical side of it as well. So understanding what the different symbols, where they come from, what they mean, and maybe developing your own symbolism out of your surroundings and applying that. Same thing with colors. So the colors are based on the surroundings of the desert back in the day. They're very أصلاً يعني حتى the palette is very much based on the desert. We live in a different world now with different palettes, so that can be a source of inspiration as well, like the colors behind it. Beyond even geometry, colors, and that, the symbolism, it's the material as well. So the material of Sedu is very distinct. Again, be inspired by the materials around you and what you guys use. Like what I loved about last year's, for example, the theme of sustainability kind of encouraged to look at that, to look at the actual materials that are used, because Sedu as a piece, it was non-intrusive to its environment in the desert surrounding. Applying that theme also is something that's interesting. Basically, what I wanted you to take from all of this is the fact that it is a multi-dimensional craft, and hopefully delve deeper into it and be inspired by it.
I completely agree. I think part of what makes unexpected things happen is that when you start to give them your own, sort of assign to them your own meaning, rather than accept the norm. And why not read Sedu and come up with your own sort of what the symbol means? Why do I have to submit? Who says just because two weavers or three weavers told us that that symbol means such and such? Why can't I speculate that no, this needs another look? We're in a different time. The meaning does not affect me anymore. Maybe we have a different meaning now. So I would if I am to give you an advice, that would be my advice, is that come up with your own sort of speculation and come up with your own meaning. I don't know. I think it's sort of, it will open up a lot of doors, I would say. Sorry.
Okay. So with my piece, first I started thinking about the material itself, and then I wanted to make something a little more heavy, if you want to call it. And because I work with stone, so I went to the quarry and I got a lot of extra access marble and granite and all of those stuff. And I recycled them, I cut them up, and I created my own little piece. And the symbols I used were parts of my childhood. So I had the piano inside, I had Tetris, other small. So when you look at it from far away, you think it's Sedu, but it's actually like small little things. And it's also 3D, so it has a little depth. And just think outside the box and like do something different. هتقلدونا يعني. ده شيء جديد. Tetris هيك.
You can simplify it, but she did it with knots.
But unconventional.
ألفت أصلاً her own phone حكايتها which I absolutely loved يعني طلعت يعني part of she watched the
كل واحد في مجاله، في شخصيته، في قاعد ياخذ السدو على اساس يعكس شخصيته على العمل نفسه. فاعتقد نفس الشيء يعني بالنسبه لي، يعني انا اعتقد ان الشيء هذا اللي هو احب ابدع فيه اللي هو الرسم او النحت، فاعتقد ان راح اعكس اكيد السدو على الرسم او النحت. فان شاء الله يعني من خلال افكار وايد تفتحت، يعني فتحت لنا بيبان وايد كبيره. اوكي، فان شاء الله نطلع بنتيجه جيده ان شاء الله.
interesting experience. عندي سؤال بس تكنيكال حق الكل. شنو الفترة اللي جهزتوا فيها قبل الشوكيس حق الجاليري؟ يعني كانت اسبوع، اسبوعين، شهر؟ متى جت لكم الفكرة؟ it was like okay I'm gonna do this idea, I'm gonna go for it. يعني شنو كانت الفترة قبل شهر؟ هم؟ 2 months. بس بالنسبة لكم يعني شنو كانت الفترة يعني؟
I think I spent like a week.
1 week ahead.
A week designing.
Three
and then it
months.
took me about
3 months is the whole thing.
yeah انت كثر يعني.
You should know a month before at least. You should know.
Okay.
You should know by the end of like the first month, month and a half, so that you have enough time to experiment, to test, and it might not work out, you might get technical difficulties. So give yourself enough time, like plan it to be done like at least a week or two before when you have to submit it, because there might be tweaks, you might get a new idea, you're like, oh my god, that's a better idea.
Plan to submit it a week or two before, because that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Come to the show the last minute and you're going to do something.
Okay.
It takes longer than you may think.
I finished earlier because I thought I was supposed to submit it earlier.
Yeah.
So I was rushing.
Yeah, I finished also like a week before, but planning is very important. Yeah, you don't like the process of thinking is also important. At the same time, you can't rush your idea, but at the same time, it's always good to know when to stop and just stick with whatever you have.
Yeah.
Then less tough. It's just a matter of okay, this is it. You need to resource the materials. Think of yeah. For me, I was stitching. I never stitched before, but that took me a long time, like 2 weeks non-stop, and I have a day job. But you need to think of these things as well, because don't worry too much about the time frame. And worry about getting the idea.
Yeah.
Right?
The idea is the hardest.
Yeah.
But at the same time, getting the idea part, you might get that in the process of making something.
Yeah.
You know, so if you have just a spark of inspiration, get started, it will lead to other things. If you're just sitting there, I don't have idea, I can't see it complete. Okay, just get started, because it'll turn up. Like once you get that.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
What
Cool.
do you do if you have a couple of ideas?
You can start with several if you want. They might come into one like natural.
Did you
like
experience something like
you
that?
can.
Yes.
I think when
I had
yeah,
two ideas.
Then
I
how
had
do
two
you-
ideas and they merged.
Like, what was the process of like, you do them at the same time? You pick
Well,
one?
my process is digital. So
Oh, yeah.
it's very cheap to experiment.
This looks so expensive and so hard to make.
It was, and it took about a month of not seeing my family and my cats. and just constantly just working on it.
Yeah.
And I had to order a lot of material from abroad because the materials that I wanted, like the specific stuff that I wanted, was not available in Kuwait. So it depends, I would say.
Okay, question for you. انت الانستليشن مالك انا شفت صور يعني did you have to create it and move it here ولا you came here and worked it? Hey.
I never saw it until I installed it.
Oh, okay. So it was like
I saw one thread at a time.
oh.
Yes, I had a render, but I've never seen it in real life
Until you installed it.
until I installed it here. So
Okay.
أنا والموجودين كنا شفناه at the same time.
Interesting.
So yeah, it was scary. It was a scary experience.
Yeah, it's very scary. Oh my
It's
God.
very scary. It's like imagine if you're making a movie
Yeah.
and you do all the cuts,
Yeah.
but you've never seen
You've
them all
never seen the
together,
movie, yeah.
right? With the sound, with everything, and you don't see them together, and all of a sudden exhibition day or first show,
Yeah.
and you show people everything, and you're the first to see it as well.
Well, it went well, so.
It's weird. It's weird. It's a scary experience, but it was well.
Cool. Yeah, cool. George.
Anyone have any questions? Anything?
Did you see the making of? So it's digital making of?
This?
Yeah.
No. No. It looks digital.
Was it actually?
How big was it?
For some reason, they are light.
It was the medium was basically glow in the dark beads.
But it's funny how the memory. So in my memory, I was there, I saw it, but what I kept in my memory, it's like a light bulb. So when she was, people were explaining, but there was light. It's like almost like a zoo.
No, there was part of this sustainability idea was that the glow in the dark beads can be sustainable because all you have to do is expose them to sunlight.
So you know you're on the break, like in a way.
So يعني in a perfect setting, that's your environment. You would install it in big shad, right? All black, and then you would open it up, open big shad up, so that the glow in the dark beads would suck in all the energy from the atmosphere. Close it back up, they would perform exactly the same.
Oh, really?
No, I know.
Thank you. Okay.
They're consistently glowing. Yeah. No, just in case, because you need to charge the glow of the dark material. So that's why I added black light so that it's consistently charged.
Guys, any other questions? Now is the time? All right.
Excited to see what you guys are doing.
Thank you. Here? Sure.
No, workshop. 24. Yeah.
Thank you.